A very good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 12:36 is the time. Let's talk about the Chief Constable of the West Midlands Police, who's been called to ask questions second time by the Home Affairs Select Committee in the House of Commons today. Why? Well, because he blatantly, openly, very clearly, provably lied last time he spoke to them. He was giving evidence about the decision of the West Midlands Police and Birmingham City Council to cancel, to basically ban Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, football fans, from attending a football match against Aston Villa late last year in Birmingham. Let's talk about this right now with Jake Wallace-Simons. He's author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, and joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Jake.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, look, this is a complicated story. It's been going on for quite some time. Can you just run us through what has happened and why there are big question marks about the future of this Chief Constable over what he claimed had been the reasons behind the ban on the Tel Aviv fans?
Yeah, I'll do my best. It is quite complicated. So I think the best way to look at it is in terms of a timeline. So it begins on October the 29th last year when the draw took place, and Maccabi Tel Aviv, the Israeli team, were drawn to play Aston Villa in November. A couple of days after that, literally within the week, Jeremy Corbyn and Ayub Khan, the local Gaza independent representing Aston Villa, launched a petition to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv from playing. And they gave three reasons for that in the petition. You can go back and read it. Two of them are regarding to their identity as Israelis. One is the allegation of genocide, and the other is that everyone in Europe's now boycotting Israel. Yeah. And the third reason was about some alleged misbehaviour of Israeli fans in Amsterdam. So there was a subsequent meeting on October the 7th thereafter, what a date, behind closed doors with the Safety Advisory Group. The police were there and other local community officials. And West Midlands Police said that they admitted they favoured banning the Israeli fans, quote, in the absence of intelligence.
So they didn't have any evidence, but they thought it was a good idea to ban them anyway.
Their gut told them that was the right decision. And at that meeting, there were two councillors, Wasim Zafar and Mubtaz Hussain, who both had openly supported boycotting the team because it was Israeli, not for any other reason. Mm-hmm. And they didn't recuse themselves. So they had that clear view before they went into the meeting.
It wasn't. This was supposed to be a meeting about public safety, and they'd already come with that stance.
And obviously it was about more than that. Now, the police outrageously later on, that line about in the absence of intelligence was redacted from official documents that were released after a Freedom of Information request. They were trying to cover their tracks, apparently. And it only came to light after the Sunday Times managed to get the full unredacted document leaked over the weekend. So that's one example of why Craig Guilford should have lost his job, in my view, already. But then it gets worse and worse, because on October the 9th, 2 days later, a Birmingham Council official wrote to the police saying, look, can we get, the quote was, a slightly more clear rationale for the ban, as it could be considered anti-Jewish sentiment. Who knows? It could be seen that way. Can I just have a bit more detail as to why you're banning these fans? And then, lo and behold, after that, a week and a half later, the police turns up some more significant intelligence, which turned out to be exaggerated. So it was things like they'd looked at 12,000 Dutch officers were deployed to deal with the football game in Amsterdam. They'd exaggerated it to 5,000. They later talked about Israeli fans chucking people in the river, which wasn't backed up by the Dutch. Dutch police ridiculed West Midlands Police, said it was total rubbish, none of it happened.
But basically the claim was there's been trouble from these fans before. No, let's face it, Maccabi Tel Aviv have got something of a reputation, but there had been trouble in Amsterdam, full-scale riots they were claiming, and the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were to blame, and that's what they claimed, that's what the Amsterdam police had told them, despite the fact that the Amsterdam police, in all of their public statements, in court evidence, in a later inquiry, made it very clear that the issue that happened in the Amsterdam match was absolutely down to local Islamist groups going on what they openly called on social media a Jew hunt, attacking Jewish fans from Israel, deliberately going out the way to that, and virtually everybody who's prosecuted was somebody from that side of the fighting. But basically the West Midlands Police basically just said, no, they'd caused the problem. They claimed they'd been told by the Amsterdam police something completely different from what the Amsterdam police had actually told them.
Yeah, I mean, there was evidence, obviously, as has been reported, that there was a big WhatsApp group with hundreds of participants before the Israeli fans landed. Yeah. People were organising this attack on Israeli fans, so it was premeditated.
Yeah.
Look, you're right. I mean, there are some Maccabi Tel Aviv fans who are hooligans, like many teams have around Europe, but the last 100 games haven't resulted in significant violence. They haven't been banned anywhere. They're just pretty much there. You know, they're not particularly.
But the key issue here is
the key issue is, as you say, that just talking about the Dutch police rubbishing West Midlands Police claims. West Midlands Police, Craig Guilford, in response, has said that he got this information on a private Zoom call with Dutch police, which mysteriously wasn't recorded or minuted. Seems pretty dubious to me.
And it goes against everything that the Amsterdam police have said in public inquiries and in court about what happened that night. It's no doubt at all, and he's absolutely free to sue me for libel. I'm quite happy with that. The Craig Guilford, the Chief Constable of West Midlands Constabulary, has lied. He has lied repeatedly again, but crucially, he's lied to a select committee in the House of Commons. That's effectively like lying to the British people, lying to Parliament. There are serious repercussions for that. I mean, he could be just carted off to prison straight away, could he not, by the Speaker on a technicality. He's been called back in to answer for himself. But how on earth is this man still in office when it's blatantly obvious that he has lied? And what do we get? What do we make of the motivations for this? Because one of the other things he claimed was that he'd met with local Jewish community leaders, and they were also concerned about the risk of violence towards the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. Now, he'd even named people that he'd met with, some of whom went, "No, I didn't. You made no contact with me." I mean, blatant lies again. That alone not good enough. Not a mistake. Blatant lies. But he did meet, and police in West Midlands did meet repeatedly with leaders, local Islamist community leaders. I don't mean Muslim, but Islamist, mosque imams, where they have hosted some extremist views from some various preachers. And that was basically who were the people who were saying, we want these people banned because they're Jews. Let's be honest, that's what they were saying. And by all accounts, the police went along with it, and they might say it's because they wanted to keep the peace, but fundamentally they went along with it because they're afraid that there was going to be trouble caused by, let's face it, anti-Semitic Islamists in Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, there is evidence for that because, I mean, let's set aside the fact that a local imam was filmed saying that his people should show no mercy, quote unquote, to the Tel Aviv fans when they landed in Britain. But also, the original police report graded the risk to Muslims, to Israelis, and to Jews of this game. And then subsequently, they changed those assessments as scrutiny began to be applied. So in the original document, before the row, the threat to local Muslims had been described as low, the threat to local Jews as medium, and the threat to Israeli fans as high. However, several weeks later, outrageously, the police had changed this around. So the threat to Muslims was upgraded from low to high. The threat to the Israeli fans had been downgraded from high to medium, and the threat to local Jews had been totally erased.
But it's
it's obvious. It's obvious what's been going on here. The police are in the pockets of the local Islamists. The Gaza Independent MP Ayub Khan, who was agitating for a ban of this team because they're Israeli from the beginning, and his cronies and accomplices. It's obvious that the Islamists and Muslim leaders pull the strings, and the police obey whatever they demand. It's outrageous. This is a result of multiculturalism, years of multiculturalism, where different sectarian groups are treated as discrete entities separate from the British public. The police, the chief constable has said repeatedly on videos, "Thank you to the leaders and elders for allowing me to address your people." Well, you don't need permission from leaders and elders. They're British subjects. You talk directly to them because you're trying to keep them safe. The whole thing stinks. It's a symptom of sectarianism in Britain that we've welcomed with mass immigration.
And we've seen it again and again. We saw it in the case, the Blatantly Grammar School teacher, no prosecutions, no investigations into the death threats against him as he went into hiding, and everyone just grovelling to local Muslim community. We've seen it when we had that. Was it Keithley with that little lad who went into? Was it Keithley went into school with a Quran and it got damaged?
Yeah.
Where was it? Wakefield. And you know, and then you know, and the local chief constable took the mother, you know, in a little shroud to go and grovel before local community leaders. This is happening again and again and again. Now, if we talk about this, obviously we're all Islamophobic and bigoted, but the reality is we're allowing these so-called self-appointed community leaders, many of whom have outrageous, disgusting, un-British, whether they're born here or not, un-British views in terms of anti-Semitism, views towards women and towards you know, freedom of speech and freedom of association, that they are being allowed to basically dictate policy by the police, who cannot come to this country for a football match based on their sectarian views. That is totally and utterly unacceptable. And the only reason they get away with it, let's be honest, is the threat of violence, because no one really thinks that everyone else is going to be violent as a result of not getting their way. And that is totally unacceptable.
That's right. I mean, it's impossible for me to accuse any individual or group of being part of the Muslim Brotherhood. But if you take a step back, this is the Muslim Brotherhood playbook that we are seeing.
Yep.
Entryism infiltrating the levers of control of local government and of national government, crying that people are being Islamophobic when they point out what they're trying to do, dominating their local communities and making sure that they are Islamist and hardline, and gradually working towards, by degrees, step by step, a position where they can take over the host country and turn it into a Sharia state.
And that is a deliberate policy. And ordinary Muslims who've come here, who are either born here or come here to want to get on with their lives, make a life for their families, go take the kids to school, do the shop, go to work. They're being represented by these people, and that's
forcibly, yes, by these self-appointed
yep.
thugs who are appointing themselves as the sole mouthpieces of the Muslim community,
yep.
as if all Muslims are extremists and support them. Well, they don't, but they're intimidated. And
yep.
the thing is that we must remember is that the government report into the Muslim Brotherhood, which named it a national security risk, came out in 2015.
Yeah.
And still the Muslim Brotherhood has not been banned. They've been entrenched in their position in Britain.
Yeah.
And we really need to wise up and get strong.
Yeah. Well, no wonder everyone's afraid. If a chief constable of the police in the West Midlands is apparently afraid of these people, then no wonder everyone else is. Jake Wallace-Hyams, thank you so much for coming on and explaining all of that. Appreciate that. Thank you. Tom Slater, listening to all of this. It is absolutely true. We've got MPs. I mean, the Tory MP Nick Timothy has been brilliant on this issue. Andrew Fox, a regular on the show as well, he stood up on this, and Jake Wallace-Hyams as well. But it is absolutely outrageous. The fact that this chief constable is still in the job is mind-blowing to me.
What I hope it reveals and hammers home for people is that this is where multiculturalism leads you, which is not about having different groups around, it's not about people bumping along together, it's about treating people as these groups who have to be tiptoe around, who, if you have one who are willing to, via these community leaders, threaten something might happen, that you just have to kind of bend over public safety and the morality be damned. This is about surrendering the streets to Islamic sectarians who claim to speak on behalf of all Muslims but really just have their own bigoted agenda in mind. That's where we've ended up with this, and it's time that we not only chuck this police chief out, but chuck this whole ideology out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. 0344 499 1000. Up next, going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be talking about Grok, the AI available easily on X and everywhere else, run by Elon Musk, basically quite happily producing sexualised images of women and children, putting them in bikinis against their will. It's happened to me, and it's happened to my next guest, Samantha Smith. We'll talk to her up next. This is Talk.